Welcome to the Familiar Company Podcast.
Welcome to the Familiar Company Podcast. Before we start today, I do want to give a special thank you to the community. This has been a wonderful privilege. I'm really excited for today's episode. With me is Devinium. We're going to be talking about Spellcraft and a little bit of history around it and her own personal practice with it. So, with that being said, welcome Devi. How are you doing today?
I am very well. Thank you so much for having me on. I appreciate it.
Sweet.
How are you?
I'm doing really good. Now, would you like to tell us a little bit about yourself to kind of get us started here?
Okay, so I'm Devi, obviously. I go by Divinium in the server. I'm kind of one of those server moms, one of the many.
Definitely.
I'll take care of you. It's fine. I'm 30. I'm married. I got babies, and to top it all off, I'm a witch. So it's fun.
Hold on. It was glitched. I'm sorry. I thought it wasn't recording.
No.
But we can keep going. It's fine.
Okay, it's fine. It's all
Continue.
good. Yeah, but I mean that's pretty much me. I'm pretty easygoing. Yeah, I do my thing.
I really appreciate it too. Like, this is really interesting because I think Spellcraft has been kind of personal in my life. And like, after meeting you in our initial first conversations, I started to realize how personal it was to you. And so I think that's really the most interesting thing is meeting people along the path that really awe-inspire, to the sense it's like you kind of start your spiritual journey and all these fascinating things come up, like Spellcraft, and you meet those people and it really inspires you to keep going down this path because you see the results in their lives, So thank you for telling us a little bit about yourself.
Thank you. But yeah, it's I appreciate it.
So we're talking about Spellcraft. Could you give us a little history around it?
Okay. So Spellcraft, we kind of got to go back to, like, I don't know, the dawn of time. Because it all had to come from somewhere, right? One of the furthest back moments of documented history that I have, because I am a huge history buff, is actually back in Mesopotamia. And it comes from, okay, well, hold on. So I'll start at Mesopotamia. So as a society, they had magic day in, day out. That was part of their existence. That's part of who they were, right? So it wasn't something that was just like, ooh, hush, taboo, like anything like that. So because of their existence in the realms of magic with how they were, there's also a spirituality that goes with it. And in that spirituality, like, everyone there believed in, like, spirits and ghosts and things of that nature. And there is a documented cuneiform tablet in the British Museum that documents this story. And what the magicians would do is they would go, if someone's being haunted by a great aunt, let's say.
Mm-hmm.
And they would go and they would figure out, okay, why are they restless? What do they need? What's going on? This particular auntie, apparently she needed a man. So in the cuneiform tablet, it actually describes, and it has oh goodness, the word just completely vanished out of my head. But they had a figure made of her and a figure made of a male, and giving those spiritual significance. and then buried it with her so that she would have a partner to go into the beyond with. And that put her soul to rest. And like I said, this is actually documented on a cuneiform tablet in the British Museum. I would love to go and visit it and be in just like awe of it, because that would be so awesome.
Right. Yeah, cuneiform is so beautiful. It blows my mind. If anybody hasn't seen it before, it kind of looks like if you've played Skyrim. I don't know. It's random. I'm bringing up an RPG right now, but the language of the dragons looks exactly like cuneiform, and it's crazy. But it's a beautiful language. But yeah, thank you, Divi. Keep going.
Okay, so there's the word effigy. We love words. So they had the effigies, they buried them, they put her to rest. Another one that I got from that time period, because just gotta love that, is the tale of Lamashtu and Pazuzu. So you may immediately hear those names and it's just like, demons, that's scary, right? So I do want to like put a little asterisk there. Demons in Mesopotamia, Samaria, Babylon, they are not like this all evil thing that just wants to take your soul. They are actually servants of the pantheon there. They are sent to punish people. They are not just evildoers to do evil. They are sent to literally like, you done wrong, now you're going to get smacked.
Right. They're like servants of punishment to a certain extent.
Exactly. They keep the balance. So, Lamashtu. Now, Lamashtu is scary, especially if you are a woman, because Lamashtu is known to go around and, be sniffing at people's doors. And if she smells a pregnant woman, ooh, she's in trouble, because she's probably going to go in and have her miscarry and then eat the baby. Or if there's a brand new smelly good baby, she's gonna go eat that one too.
Jeez.
And so I know it's terrifying, and I use humor as a way of just minimizing it, but that's just me. So she's going around, she's doing her thing, which is terrible. And in those areas, they found a lot of statues of Pazuzu. And that's weird, right? Because Pazuzu is another demon, supposedly.
Right. Why would they glorify this horrifying thing?
Why would they have this ugly thing in amulets, in anything like carved into tablets? Because they used him as a ward for Lamashtu.
Oh.
Because, yeah. So apparently, if Lamashtu's
matters.
It does. So apparently, if Lamashtu is around and she's sniffing around, there's something going on with the babies, they're going to have a Pazuzu statue in every house, because apparently the moment that she sees his face, she's just like, I don't want anything to do with that one. I'm going on to the next house. And so it's a way to keep her away. And of course, you want to protect the children.
Wow. Yeah, I bet without context, the archaeologists, when they read the tale and they didn't understand the practice, they were probably like, oh my God, these people are horrifying.
Probably, because, you have to take everything into historical context. You have to know, okay, what did the people believe at the time? What was going on? And another way, I got another one. Mm-hmm. Another way to get rid of Lamashtu, because she is supposedly a feminine demon, right?
Mm-hmm.
They would take this boat, and they're out there by the Tigris, and oh gosh, I forgot what the other one. So is it Tigris and Euphrates?
I'm not sure, but it's okay. It's okay.
It's okay. I am not a history major. I did not do that.
It's okay. The story matters more.
The story matters more. So another way to banish Lamashtu was to take a boat and I believe it was just like a small kind of toy boat. I don't think it was a big boat.
Mm-hmm.
And they would fill it with like feminine things like combs and hair forks to like anything that's pretty.
Right.
They're just like you're a woman, you're gonna like pretty things,
So it's
right?
kind of like a gift to be left alone.
Not quite.
Oh, okay.
Not quite. Because they'd lure her there. The magicians would lure her there. And as soon as they knew that she was there, there is no indication on how they knew. They probably just felt that she was
Mm-hmm.
there. And I'm always on those intuitional pings. If you feel something, go with it. And so as soon as she was there, they would set that thing free on the tigress, and the tigress is fast, and there she goes. Bye. Be gone.
That works. Sometimes you
It
gotta
does.
lure them in.
And I mean, water is so magical to begin with, so
Right.
it makes the most sense.
Yeah, and it's like coaxing them into your territory as well, where you know your energy's stronger.
Exactly.
Wow. That, yeah, like, see, like, without context, I assumed it was a gift. So, there we go.
The mousetrap.
Yeah, that's amazing. So, these were magicians roaming the land. Like, do you know any more about their practices?
This is a lot of it was just, the everyday things that unfortunately the rich could afford. And
Right.
so it was like they were there to solve a rich man's problem. I know migraines of course still plague people, and it was believed that spirits caused that, so they would exorcise those spirits and
Mm-hmm.
and come up with the spells and the rituals to be able to do so. So, I mean, they did a lot, but they were an everyday accepted part of society.
Right. Were they more so valued than lay people?
I would say so, because they were the ones that, they were actually literate. So it was, hmm, they were more likely to be like the sons of kings that, weren't going to be on the throne, or clergy and things of that nature. So they were of the upper echelons in the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
That's how they got
Right.
these teachings to begin with.
Yeah, because they had the leisure, the free time, and the finances
Hmm.
to get the learning. So they were kind of set up to like succeed, even if it may not be the throne. Other areas like in like priesthood and like magicians of that time. So that's really fascinating.
Absolutely.
Do you have any other mythological tales from Mesopotamia just off the top of your head right now?
Oh gosh, off of Mesopotamia. I mean, I was listening to like the history stuff for it all day, but I've got nothing in terms of like the mythologies and of course getting the stories of the magicians is one of those things that's a little bit more complicated.
Right, because a lot of it hasn't been fully decoded yet, and there's so much missing. It's hard to
Oh yeah.
know the full extent of these people's culture. It's crazy. It's beautiful too. We've probably got the slideshow going now, and I can't wait to see some of the comments around those. The Lamasu in particular, right? It's the
Lamashtu.
Oh, is that it? That's the one with the lion's body and the head of a man, right?
Lamasu. No,
No.
Lamashtu has the head of a lion. She's the one that eats the babies.
Right.
Or are
Oh,
you
that's
talking
not,
about Lamasu?
I'm talking about Lamasu, like the Lamasu. It's
I
the
am terrible with names.
No,
So
it's
excuse
totally
me for
okay.
that one.
They do sound similar for sure, but no, it represents the zodiac signs, I believe. I can't
Hmm.
remember the exact ones off the top of my head, but so, but aside of that, I think we kind of have like an idea of where some of these practices originally came from and why these people were able to become, popularized, and these practices spread throughout other lands because it was coming from like royalty as well. So we kind of get a general idea of how the seeds first spread from this practice. Could you tell me about like your personal stumbling upon spellcraft in your life?
Okay. So I actually started practicing when I was like 14. And that's kind of the moment where, you're lost in the dark. What you've been raised in doesn't make sense, and so you're searching for something. And the funny part is that, I was raised like Southern Baptist, right? And so my mother, she always raised me Southern Baptist. She's the one that taught me. She's the one that
Mm-hmm.
opened the door for me, and kind of gave me permission, if that makes sense, so that I'm not doing anything wrong, but she gave me permission
That's
to explore.
interesting.
It is, and it's hilarious to me.
Yeah, you wouldn't expect that.
You wouldn't
I'm kind of like my head's cocked to the side, like, really? Whoa.
to go into the story with you later because it's a little personal, but it's
Understood.
it's it's funny. So, she opened the door for me and she found this. Oh gosh, this is back in 2005, 2006. You remember those like janky WordPress websites that like they've got the hyperlinks and everything's like wild colors and just like it's 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 horrible by today's standards, but it was everything back then. It was so cool.
It was the shit then. I hear you.
It was,
It's just
and
sloppy
it's
compared to today, though.
so bad now that I'm thinking back on it. And I could not find this thing today if I tried. I would have to literally like go to the ends of the earth to try and find this thing. But it was another witch's book of shadows. And my mom had me start studying from there, and then she was completely hands off. So she opened the door for me, but she would not teach me, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
She was like, you got to find the way on your own, right?
yeah, pretty much. And I could come to her with my questions, but it wasn't anything where she was actually going to like explain anything. So I started that study on my own using somebody else's spell work. Most of the stuff I was always looking into was like, okay, let's look at past life regression. Let's look at, um, some of the bigger like spiritual questions, like how do we get in contact with our guides? How do we like grow our consciousness so that we're able to communicate further? Um, and it was never like I'm gonna do a love spell kind of thing. Like I'm not that kind of person.
You
So
skipped the cheesy stuff. You were like, what it's enlightenment.
kind of, and a group of my friends at school, we went off on like a journey. And this was like from the age of 14 to 16 before life came and just like slapped the ever loving crap out of us. And like, I don't think any of us has ever like all been in the same room since.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but like we were looking at I Ching, we were looking at divination, premonition, um, precognition. Well, premonition and precognition are pretty much the same damn thing. But um, different. Oh gosh, palmistry. So much stuff. Like we're trying to cram into our heads at the same time, and we're trying to just get like the basics of energy work down, trying to flow energy between us. Like there's like seven of us, and we'd all like sit in a circle and practice and everything, and we'd get a lot of weird looks because this would be in the middle of like the cafeteria at school. And
Whoa.
so
Grade A
yeah.
confidence. Congrats. I live in North
So
Georgia. I'm too scared to do that around these parts.
I mean, we were the weird kids. It's okay.
That's really awesome, though.
So it was fine, and you know we kind of went on our kind of soul searching at that time. Um, and it was a fun experience, and it taught me a lot. Um, taught me how to feel energy more, and then of course opened me up to being able to trust my own intuition. And so that's always something that has kind of been there as a kind of an anchor to kind of keep me down a little bit while I go and I explore, if that makes sense.
Right. What were some of your initial thoughts, like when you started to like feel like the energy work with your friends, and if results soon, you know?
Yeah, so in terms of energy work, we were all so excited. But everything's exciting at that age. Everything is so exciting. So I remember me and my best friend at the time. Um, we it was super super cloudy that night, and this was just as kind of a test for like moving energy. Like, see, okay, it's cloudy tonight. What phase is the moon in? I don't know. My phone doesn't have internet because it's again like 2005. That's that's expensive. Um, we're not about to run upstairs and go log on to a computer and try to figure it out. And so we both sat there. We're in her driveway, and we're holding hands. And her cats, they come out of nowhere and they literally start like figure eighting our feet. It's one of the
Whoa.
most insane experiences that I've ever had in my life. And we both look up, and I said, focus on the moon. We can see the light of it, but the clouds are like, they're really thick, and there is no spots, if that makes sense.
Hmm.
And we said, focus on it. It's going to open up for us. And within 2 minutes, it did. And we were able to,
What?
there was literally, yeah, I know it sounds stupid. It sounds
It
insane. It's like,
doesn't. It doesn't.
no, that's dumb. That doesn't happen. Like, I get it.
No, 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 it doesn't. I have a personal experience I'll have to tell you another time, but please go on. Like, I believe you.
It was exciting. It was so exciting because it's just like we can actually make manifest things in the physical world versus just something that we're thinking about. It's in our thought space, it's in our heads. This is real. This is something that is around us, and it was amazing, and I loved it so much.
Oh,
And I
the
think of that
adrenaline.
moment often. Oh, lots of adrenaline. But
Yeah. It's probably like figuring out your superhero. It's like, oh my god. We're so powerful. We're all so
superhero.
beautiful.
It was just like we're so small and we can do something that big. That's awesome.
Yeah. Did you have a teacher at some point?
I wouldn't say that I had really a teacher. I've had like guideposts, if that makes sense. So my mom was my first guidepost.
Right.
And then, funnily enough, at my school, I had a Latin teacher. I was that kid. Like, I took Latin in high school.
That's
And this
sick.
was by choice because this is public high school, not like some Catholic private high school.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, and I knew there was something different about her. I wanted to just. Have you ever had a teacher where you're just like, I'm gonna pick your brain. I'm going to sit here after class because she was the last class of the day, and I'm just like, I'm gonna sit here and I'm gonna pick your brain.
Right.
And finding out, she is pagan, and at this point, I was going down more of like a Wicca path, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because that's kind of like the basis of where I started, and it's a good place to start. And getting to talk to her, and she divulges that she is a polytheist, and she is pagan. I know pagan typically means like country hick, but like I will take the country hick name. That's fine. I will be the pagan redneck. That's fine. That's
We
good.
You're gonna change the meaning eventually.
It's fine. I'll stay a redneck. It's fine. I'm in Texas. It's all good. But talking to her and picking her brain, because at that point, at what, like 15, 16 years old, you're caught on certain things and take them at face value instead of looking deeper. And the thing that she taught me that was so profound, and I've carried it with me, was it's all the same story told through different cultures. It's all the same thing.
Yeah.
And it would, oh God, I got chills just thinking about it now. Oh, Mrs. Perot. I
Yeah.
wish I could find her again. She was such an amazing teacher. I loved her so much.
Yeah, pointing out
Um,
synchronicities, that's important. That's an
oh yeah,
important lesson in the beginning.
it really, really is. Because a lot of it is based on archetype versus, that actual person or something like that.
I hear you.
Um, so, having her kind of teach that. And one of the other things that she taught me was, how there are sometimes in groups where there will be like one person that they think something's going on with them. Maybe there's an ulterior motive there where, they're trying to get close to somebody else in the group and they're saying they're in trouble, they're having issues, something's going on, even though like intuitively there's not. Treat it as if there is. Treat it as if there is, because it may be something that they're fighting internally that you can't feel, that
Yeah.
you don't know.
Yeah. I've heard something similar from like a Buddhist point of view. If someone's mad or angry at you, it's kind of like I'm in pain, right?
Hmm. Yeah, and she gave an example because she actually had like a coven that she was with, and she gave an example there of, apparently there was this woman who wanted to get close to one of the leaders. Like she had like a huge massive crush on him,
Mm-hmm.
like into this dude, to the point that she's she became, I'll put that in quotes, became possessed by a spirit of like a Polynesian type demon, something like that.
Ooh.
Because this gentleman was Polynesian, and his practice that he brought to the table, to the coven, included Polynesian um, influences.
Mm-hmm.
And so, she's over there, she's speaking in different tongues and all that kind of thing. And they treated it as a serious matter because they don't want somebody to be second guessing themselves. And it's almost one of those things like you see a homeless person begging for money on the side of the road. You don't know if they're being true or not. Act as if they are. Act as if they are. And if you feel like you can give money, give money. If you can give them a sandwich, give them a sandwich.
Right.
Feed them, because ultimately, if they are in need of help, you did your part. If they weren't and you helped, that's on them, not on you.
Yeah, absolutely. The kindness is what's most important in it.
Exactly. So that stayed with me.
I can
She was
imagine.
definitely one of my guideposts, and like I have tried to find her on Facebook,
One of those
like
that
I
comes and goes, like, were they really there?
I don't know, like at that point might have been an angel. I don't know. I'm
Who knows? You mentioned like a grimoire or book of shadows earlier. Could you tell us
Mhm.
a little bit more about that and how important it is to the craft?
Okay. So Book of Shadows is going to go into importance dependent upon the practitioner. So it's pretty much like a witch's diary. So it's going to talk about uh, what to them is, oh goodness, correspondences. What to them is a correspondence. Like, what does peppermint mean to them? What does rose mean to them? Like, what are its uses? Kind of things, right?
Mm-hmm.
and then going into their own experiences. Like, I did a meditation on this. This is the experience that I had. This is what I saw. This is what I felt. This is what I experienced. Um, so knowing me, I have like, let's see, two pads of paper. I have, I have one journal specifically for experiences and one journal specifically for manifestation. I have another journal around here somewhere. Um, it's ridiculous, like, because I cannot stay in one journal for too long. Um, and it's some are eccentric, and I guess like myself, and it's just like, I need paper. Like, I don't it's not important enough to actually go in the black bound paper, but I need paper, and so it's going to go on like a notepad or something. And my manifestation journal is specifically for manifestation, but that's kind of in the name. But so I think the name like Book of Shadows and everything like that. It's like, yeah, because it's like a diary. You're gonna stick it under your bed, and like, because that's your personal experience. It's documenting what you've been through, what you've experienced, what you did, including any spell work that you've done. Um, so it's all dependent upon the practitioner. Some people may not use a Book of Shadows at all, and you don't need it. And that's fine. If you got a notebook and you just kind of want to write stuff down, maybe something important, maybe a dream you had, sometimes writing it down helps in terms of interpretation. Just doing that. It doesn't need to be like this heavy leather-bound book and you only write in it in your own blood kind of thing. Like, don't do that. Please don't do that.
Yeah, you're really touching on something really important about a lot of like spiritual concepts, and that they tend to be much more mundane and practical than people are willing to admit. And there almost this kind of ego that goes in hand with it, like makes us feel powerful to have this leather bound book that does have such a thorough record of our practices. But then there's the element of it that it's like, what if it's just a grocery list or just some random thoughts and stuff? And those are still books
Absolutely.
of shadows.
They are. They absolutely are. I mean, I'm not going to say that, that heavy leather-bound book is better than like my torn up notepad. Like,
Right. They both manifest.
they do. They both manifest, and they're both doing things that they're supposed to do, and it's a way of documenting.
Yeah. I am of not the so practical person when it comes to my book of shadows. Like, I write essential things in it, like principles or my daily practices and whatnot. I keep it pretty strict, but I have like notepads in my phone that I'm willing to bet, if you break it down like you just did, those are books of shadows too.
Absolutely.
A book of poetry, anything that's a writing that's like personal to a certain extent, that's a book of shadows. So I like how
Exactly.
you put that, and it really kind of encapsulates the title of itself, right? A book of shadows. So it's your shadow self. It's the things that are not shared with others commonly. So that's awesome.
Precisely.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Precisely.
While we're talking about like stigmas and stuff, how do you cope with that stigma, right? As a practitioner.
I didn't for the longest time. So, like I said, I'm 30 years old, right? Um, and I hid, and I didn't talk about it. I was shamed for it, and so it just like I went into silence. And over the last couple of years, I've just kind of had like this, screw it moment. Like, I am who I am. I believe what I believe. There is no shame here. You want to, have it out with me, have it out with me. Say what you're going to say. Like, I really don't care because that's your point of view and it's wrong. Like,
Right. It's sad though, isn't it? Like that there is such a heavy stigma around such a beautiful belief system that's really from an intent of love and kindness, more
it
than
is.
people are willing to admit.
It's demonized, and you know those few that are just like, I'm going to do a love spell. I'm going to enslave this guy. I'm going to do this and that and the other and, get everything I want. And, I'm going to manifest that mansion kind of thing. Like, okay, you're kind of screwing it up for the rest of us, but okay. You do you, boo boo. Like, that's fine.
Did you forget of an equivalent exchange?
Equivalent exchange, I've heard the term like spiritual bank. You gotta, if you're manifesting big, like you better be putting some energy back for that.
Yeah,
Make them
absolutely.
deposits.
Yeah, with abundance comes sacrifice.
Yes. And that sacrifice can just be time. Everyone talks about like sacrifice. Oh my gosh, I'm going to talk about this for a second.
Go ahead.
Okay. So sacrifice, Hollywood's just like, I'm going to take this freaking random knife and I'm going to slice my palm open kind of thing. And I'm just like, ugh, why? Like, sacrifice
Overkill.
can literally, so overkill. Sacrifice can literally be the time that you're putting into it. Sacrifice can be like energy. So time is energy, I guess. Materials, it can be monetary. Technically, if you're having to sacrifice monetary type things to maybe get materials like candles or oils or whatnot, crystals. And that is technically a sacrifice at that point because it's taking something from you to manifest what you want. So sacrifice doesn't have to just be like, take my firstborn baby. Please, for the love of God, don't do that. Please don't do that. That would just not be good.
Right. It's way too far out there sometimes. I definitely see. Now that we're talking about like practices, could you give me an example of like what a real sacrificial ritual is in the practical sense?
Oh, a sacrificial ritual.
Yeah.
So, oh gosh.
It's much more mundane than people think.
It's so mundane. It's just like, I'm going to burn some incense for you. I have lost the incense. That energy is now yours. Ta-da!
Yeah.
And I mean, that's really it. And that's all it is about. Because, I mean, if you're working with spirits, if you're working with entities and deities and whatnot, it's all about energy because they can't really interact with the physical plane. That's just not how they operate. And so I find one of the easiest ways to give energy to them to manifest what you want is by fire. And what I mean by that is like burning a candle or burning some incense or maybe writing down everything that in the case of manifesting, like letting something go, or spell work, I guess, of letting something go, writing down what you're letting go and then setting it on fire because you're releasing it.
Right. Right. That reminds me of something from like Eastern traditions. Like they'll do those beautiful sand mandalas and then just wipe
Mhm.
them away at the end of it. And I feel like with such pure intents and such heavy things that go into these notes and these papers, it's like letting go of these beautiful things that have made us a better person or potentially will, right? Whether it be for
Absolutely.
manifestation or for like letting go of something from the past and stuff. That's usually what I've done in a personal sense, like of like doing these notes. I'll burn them, like I'll write down a traumatizing memory and then burn it and let it go to the wind, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And the sacrifice that you're making there is you're reliving it. You're going through it, you're hashing it out, you're writing it down, you're putting down the details. You've spent the time, you've spent the energy, both emotional and just like outright time is energy. So, I mean, all of that is the sacrifice that you have made to let it go. And that's wonderful.
Yeah. And something about like this ritualistic practice kind of makes the the process of healing a little bit easier because you just write out what's happened to you, right? And then you kind of
Hmm.
meditate on it and you burn it and then let it go. And it's so simple, but we don't realize how deeply it impacts our like subconscious, right?
Oh, absolutely. And I mean, like, ritual and spellcraft doesn't have to be like, I need 25 different herbs and 3 different oils and I have to set up an entire circle and like, where's my athame? Like, it doesn't need to be all of that. It can literally just be you in a quiet spot in your home with a single burning candle, and as long as your intent is in that space and you know exactly what you're doing, that's all you need.
That's so beautiful because it highlights on one of the main intents of magic is being good with your energy work and your
Hmm.
imagination and your vision, right? Your mind's eye.
Yeah.
And so, like any tool or anything that you need in magic, if you really need it, you can imagine it in your mind and do
Hmm.
everything from an astral plane, right?
Hmm. Absolutely. And I mean, anything in the physical, like any, let's see, any wand, I guess you could say. This is kind of like, so let's see, how do I put it? So you're trying to aim something, right? You're trying to hit that bullseye, but it's really far off. So you need a scope. You need a scope to be able to aim it. And then because it helps that aim. It makes it steady so that you know exactly what you're going for. So if you need all of that accoutrement, go for it. But if your aim is steady enough on its own, you're not going to need a bunch of that. Your intent will get through to its intended target.
Wow. Beautifully said. Thank you. That hits home. That hits home. You know, and I think it's really important for people to know that are of not the financial means to get into these practices, to not feel like they have to go out and buy all these precious items for their magical practices.
Hmm. It's not like Jafar in, Aladdin where he needs the king's ring. Like, no, you don't need that, I promise.
Right. Could you give me some more examples of like practical spellcraft?
Practical spellcraft. So, in terms of what you're looking to do, so, general protection spell, like maybe something that you say before you go to sleep, right? There was one that I used like every night, and I would repeat this 3 times every night before I went to sleep. Um, in my old house. It was, Gods protect us through the night, cast out the dark and bring in light, cast out the evil, keep it at bay until the light of dawn breaks day. Because I was the kind that spoke in rhyme. Um, and I still do from time to time. Ha 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 ha. So it's it's one of those things where you set exactly what you're wanting. So in spellcraft, you can put like flowery language in there. That's fine. But if the meaning is lost because you're trying to be poetic, don't be poetic. Be straightforward. Um, but that's also something that I've learned with, the 16 years that I've been doing this. So it's one of those growing pains.
Mm-hmm.
Um, just make sure that your intention is known. If you're feeling a little shaky, you're not sure the wording is going to get the intention across, add a little something else. Sometimes, well, there are some people that they need that entire, like, opening the circle, calling all the elements, calling all the angels kind of thing. There are some that they need that in order to be able to push their intent forward, push their intention. And that's fine. That's perfectly fine. Not everyone's going to need that though. And that's something that is going to be on an individual basis.
Yeah, absolutely. Complexity is subjective.
Seriously. And it's all about how it happens for you. It's just like some people, will go with, praying in a church. Some people feel like this is, a sacred space, and it's, you know, they have a connection to their God there, and that's perfectly fine and beautiful. There are other people that go in there and it's like it's just a building, and that's also fine. That's also fine. Some people, the closest that they get to their deities is literally like sitting at their desk at work or laying down in bed to go to sleep. Like that's the funny ones is when they get you in the shower and it's just like ah, but it's just, it's what it is.
Wow. I kind of got taken away from like imagining that scenario out, honestly.
It's funny. It's really funny. Like I've had them appear in tiles. You know how some people are like, "Oh yeah, that's a condition where you see faces and things."
Right.
I've
Yeah.
seen faces and things, and then I've gone to look for it again, and I can't find it again. So I don't know. You tell me. Um, but and I'm just like, what do you want? I'm showering. Leave me alone. Like, let me have some peace. I'm doing a cleansing ritual right now.
That's a good kind of experience to highlight on. Like for an individual that's not as like sensitive and stuff, to like
Hmm.
seeing and noticing these things because they are always around us if you
Oh
think
gosh,
about it.
yes.
Like do you think it was the practice that made you more sensitive or has there always been this ability?
Gosh, I'm gonna sound like a freaking teenage girl. I was born with it. Um, but this is an experience that I have continued to have like throughout my whole life. I can remember like when I was 6 years old, and I would literally see like these black figures like surround my bed at night, and I was just like, I'm not getting out of this bed. I am literally sleeping underneath the blankets. I need like to face the wall. I don't want to see them. I can't. I don't know what's going on. So that was like an every night occurrence. And the thing is, it wasn't just that I saw them. My brother and I shared a room, and he saw them too. So it was confirmation just between the two of us. Um, so not crazy.
No.
Um, in that regard, I guess. But we're all a little crazy. It's a spectrum. It's fine.
Absolutely.
But it is something that, I've kind of always had. I've always had the experiences of it. And um oh my gosh, I have another
Do
story.
you go ahead. Go ahead. Go for it.
So I grew up like super poor, right? Like Section 8 type of apartments kind of thing. And the only way that we could do laundry is if like we got, some pocket change off of like a scratch card. So my mom would kind of use me in that way, um, because she would purchase it, but she wouldn't touch it. And she said, do not, she would tell this to the clerk, like, do not give it to me, hand it directly to that one, otherwise we're not going to win anything. And so bad. That's
Nah.
how that's how we were able to wash our laundry because every single week that is how we got the money to do it.
You were a lucky charm. That probably instilled a lot of faith in yourself early on.
Yeah, except for the weeks that, luck didn't hit and it was just like, I'm sorry. I
Oh,
didn't I didn't do it.
yeah. I guess it is
But
gambling. It doesn't always work out.
gambling, and there was only a couple of weeks where that didn't work, where we were tight on funds. But, it is what it is, but it's one of those things where I've always carried with me like, I know. I know what you did, Mom. I know what you did. But
Yeah. Yeah. Would you recommend this path for people not within the practice itself already? Like,
absolutely. I mean, if they want to explore it, explore it. There is, there's so many benefits to it. Now, I won't say that it's like all sunshine and roses, because there are darker aspects, because just like there's a book of shadows, there is shadow work to go along with it. Um, because if you don't know yourself and you're not dealing with your traumas and you're not fixing the things within you that need to be fixed, it's going to come back and it is going to hit you like you've never been hit before. So if you are ready to do that healing and you are ready to like open yourself up to that kind of healing, absolutely. If you are just going to stick your head in the sand and look the other way and ignore the things that have hurt you, that you have clung to, I would recommend running the other direction.
right. Yeah, synthesis is such an important part of the practice itself.
Hmm.
Now that we're like kind of like talking about like the things you have to face in the beginning, like alchemy in an alchemical sense, speaking about like synthesis, how would
Hmm.
you compare the beginning of that journey where things start to bubble up and start to heat up inside of oneself, the transition, right? The dark night of the soul.
Oh, that dark night of the soul. Oh, so gosh, mine lasted so long
Yeah,
because
it's the beginning of the journey. It happens to
stubborn. I'm so
everybody.
stubborn. And it's the more you fight it, the more it hurts. So with the dark night of the soul, and that it's one of those points where you literally need to just put your arms out, put your head up and say, I surrender. I'm ready. Let's go through this. Because the more that you're just like, I'm going to tuck tail and just haul ass, they're faster. They will catch you
Yeah.
and it will traumatize you more. Like, it's not pretty.
Trauma's horrifying, especially in these like visionary aspects in the deep states of meditation.
Hmm. And you want to know the funny thing? Meditation was not something that I could really grasp until like 2 or 3 years ago. Um, like I tried, but like I could not get things to calm down. At the time I did have, very, very small children. So, they're little babies, and if you're meditating around a baby, like they're gonna get into something. Like just don't do it. Um, but you know, it's one of those things. And so, until I finally like had one of those breakthrough moments, um, it didn't come to fruition for me. And it was something that I always wanted, and so I was just always like, why? Like for what? For why? Why can't I do this? Why is this not possible? And it was almost like I was manifesting my own failure, which is terrible, but you can do it. It is possible, and I would suggest that you stop immediately.
Yeah.
Um,
Lust for results, right?
yes, and it's oh, being patient with it is the hardest part. Patience is a virtue that I'm being like slapped with time and time and time and time and time again. It is not something that comes naturally to me. I'm a very, very impatient person. So it's it's one of those things where, okay, you're gonna keep getting hit with this lesson until you actually learn it.
Yeah. It really blows my mind too, because like as you're speaking about it, it's kind of like shining a light on things that I've gone through during that process of synthesis, that dark night of the
Mhm.
soul, and it's one of those hard subjects to talk about, and people know it when they kind of start going through it. And I promise anyone that's listening to this, you've gone through a dark night of the soul without this practice. We're all going through it in some sense. I think it's really powerful because the end results is like the phoenix from the ashes.
It really is, and it burns away the things that you've been holding on to that don't serve you any longer. They have no place inside of you to begin with. The way that I've always put it is it's like an old wound that had a splinter in it. And this thing is deep underneath the surface of your skin. You can't see it from the outside, but if somebody touches it, it hurts, and it hurts a lot. And if you continue to let it sit there, it's going to fester and it's going to grow until the point where it is visible on the outside. Now, to get it out of there, you do have to cut it open. You have to examine it. You have to remove it. You have to see what it is. And then you have to let it go. And only then can you heal to the point where you're not going to be in pain every time somebody touches that spot.
Right. This is tying up really well with like what we were talking about earlier when it comes with sacrifice.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. I think this is a really good closing point, right? Would you like to give us any knowledge, plug your practice and readings or anything of that nature real quick before we close up? And final thoughts?
I mean, final thoughts, magic is fun, but it is also a lot of work. And if you're not willing to do the work, just, it's still going to be there. It's not going to go away. So I do tarot readings professionally on Keen, and you can find me on Keen, that is KEEN.com/mystic table. So I hope to see you at my table. And thank you so much for having me, Drew.
Thank you, Devi. This blows my mind every time I get into these deep talks. I really appreciate it. Let's play the music and get out of here. I greatly appreciate everyone coming out and listening. We really need the community, and we needed this support. We appreciate you all. This is the Familiar Company Podcast. Much love, and y'all have a beautiful night, okay?